Hello, my name is Jared Kipe, and I'm the lead developer and owner of Hibou. We're a US Odoo partner, and today we're going to be talking about our functionality for delivering great customer experiences for less. What do we mean by that? Well, businesses have a lot of needs for what they need to do to get the customer the packages in the most efficient way. For example, we want to make sure that the inventory is delivered from the closest stock, or potentially in the case of an order with items that are available only in different locations, need to be able to create as many pickings for the different warehouses to be able to get the stock to the customer. We need to be able to potentially deliver specific products from specific locations or warehouses. You can think of this as like a refurbishment scenario, for example, where maybe items go to get refurbished, and when you offer those refurbished items on your website, you only want them to come from the refurb center itself. You wouldn't want the inventory system to just dump it in with other orders in the same warehouses that are delivering other inventory. We also need to be able to deliver from specific carriers or with specific packaging. That can come down to things like glassware that's only available on carriers that offer insurance, for example, stuff like that. From the customer perspective, though, things are a little different. The customers expect these days to be able to see their delivery, not just the price, but also the delivery expectations so that they can plan their receipt. And we need to make sure that it ships or rather that they're aware of the timelines and things like that for when they're going to get it, so that they can be happy when they actually get their tracking notices and their packages. So we can do all of this with Hibou, and we're going to be first looking at a piece of functionality called Sale Order Planner. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Sale order planning starts from the idea that we're going to have an item, or maybe a collection of items. Let's go ahead and take one of these and duplicate it. So we'll duplicate an existing order and maybe take off some items here, and we can hit plan. And what we're going to get is a plan. Here we go. Hey, all right. What we get is essentially a plan for all of our different carriers with their pricing and also transit days. So one of the interesting things, if you've worked with shipping at all, that you've probably come across is that different carriers, and indeed different methods among the carriers, provide different details to the end users. This could be marketing, this could be technological kind of differences, or even like guarantees around when those services will arrive. What I mean by that is, let's say FedEx, for example. FedEx might say, it'll take 3 to 5 days to get there via ground, but that for, say, the 2-day FedEx service, they actually will send a very specific timestamp back through. To present a grid for the customer service reps to pick from and things like that, generally speaking, we need to normalize that data down so that we would have both a date that it would arrive by and the transit days. So if they give us back a date, then we need to calculate how many transit days it was, and that's not so straightforward, and we'll get to calendars in a little bit. Likewise, if they give us back transit days, we need to calculate the date, and again, not so straightforward because a lot of carriers don't, for example, deliver on specific weekends and things like that. For the time being, let's go ahead and just accept one of these plans here. Let's go ahead and take the 3-day, the very slowest possible method, the 3-day USPS priority. When we hit select here, all the same things that the normal shipping wizard would do happened, including adding the item and adding all of the specific details over on the other information tab, and where there used to be a carrier, and also some other dates and things like that. So we have now saved via that plan, we have saved that we're expecting to get that on a set date coming from a set warehouse. When we hit confirm, in this case, it's going to do that. I believe it's going to use my second warehouse for the inventory that we have on hand. Indeed, we could have noticed that during the planning itself. But both items were in stock in the second warehouse. Therefore, we got a delivery in the second warehouse. And ultimately, the next step would be to make sure that we actually get this out to the customer. But before that, let's go ahead and talk about the various ways that we get the plans at the sale order level. So I mentioned a lot has to do with dates, and that I did that intentionally because there are a lot of computations both from days into a date time or from a date time back into days and things. So let's talk about how we manage that. So If we go to warehouses, every warehouse now has the option for a shipping calendar. Now, this shipping calendar should be in the time zone of the actual warehouse, and it should have the days that that warehouse can reasonably accommodate taking a new order and still get it out the door. So, for example, an order that was placed at 15:55 or 59 or something would still be considered in this day, and we can get it out the door. Most of the time, the end timestamp is set around when the carrier might actually pick it up versus the actual times that the users might be working in that warehouse. Meaning that in this case, 4 p.m. Might be when FedEx comes by to pick up, or rather, when all the carriers have finished picking up for the day, or something to that effect. This one is very important when it comes to planning when a order will leave. So that's something that we should keep in mind, right? That when we're selling something on the sale order, there's a good chance that that item won't leave today, especially if it's on a weekend, right? So that's what this calendar gives us. It gives us essentially the plan date from the warehouse that has inventory. So if this was the warehouse that had the inventory, this is the calendar we're using to basically say when is the next possible order or time for us to be able to get in. And indeed, it is in the middle of the day, so we could place that order right now and still have that order leave the shop. After 4 p.m. though, it's going to leave the next day basically. So we're always managing that. I should point out that if you haven't worked with calendars before, you can also put in time off, which is super, super useful because we do really need to plan these resources to have accurate planning for the packages as far as when they're going to leave and arrive. You really do need to make sure that you put in things like days off, including global holidays, or even just holidays for that particular location. Let's say that we have a planned internet outage or something and they can't ship on a day. Add that into the shipping calendar so that warehouse doesn't get behind. All right, so the other place is the delivery method. So if we go into our shipping methods as of Odoo 14, which we are in right now, we will note that every delivery carrier themselves, every method, in fact, can have its own delivery calendar. This is very important for when things will arrive, when we're backing off the transit days and things. So for example, USPS can ship and arrive on a Saturday, whereas FedEx ground that's not residential cannot. So if you offer a residential ground FedEx service, you'd need a different calendar and realistically a different service type, which is an option using our functionality. So how does all of that stuff kind of come in together on the plan? Well, it's fairly straightforward after that idea. So let's say, for example, we go into this Apple that we already planned. Let's go ahead and duplicate this one. And let's go ahead and take off the shipping and add another product, maybe a product that we only have available in one particular warehouse. Let's see what we got. So that makes some sense here because we have the delivery estimate that one and that one are available and this one is not. Therefore, if we hit the plan, we're going to not get a planned date. And in reality, actually, we got a very elaborate plan, one that really bears some questioning here. So we have an elaborate plan because in reality, both warehouses do not have the sufficient stock to be able to ship it, but the combination of two warehouses can. So in this case, over here, we have a 2-day, but it has sub-plans. Essentially, it will leave on the same it'll actually arrive on the same date from both warehouses. They're actually pretty close to each other. But that's what this subplan is about. It's basically which items will leave from which warehouse. And when we select one of these plans, let's go ahead and select this FedEx 2-day. We're going to actually override some of our items. So in this case, there's going to be 2 items shipping from this particular warehouse and 1 item shipping from this warehouse. Now, we know this item is available from both warehouses because that's how we originally planned this out, but that isn't the case any longer, or rather, in most likely, this warehouse is just a tiny bit closer than the other warehouse that is delivering these cupcakes. So if we were able to see the carrier and the warehouse on there, which I think we can still see the warehouse we can. So that's the main warehouse is the offsite one, right? In this case, so this one item is going to ship via the warehouses. Via the sale orders warehouse, and these other two are going to have overrides to plan on specific days out of specific warehouses. Now, again, in this case, both of these are shipping on the same day, but that's not always the case. In fact, it's quite likely that if you're splitting between different warehouses, that you're going to have different plan dates between them. So with that said, this is something that's not available in stock Odoo. We do have to add these kinds of things, and the plan sets it up for us so that when we confirm this, we will get 2 delivery pickings. One of them will be for the original warehouse, and then the second one will be just the items leaving out of that, which was technically the original sale orders warehouse. So why don't we fill all of these all in one go? That's for reporting purposes, because we can really think of any sale order line that has a filled warehouse. We can think of that as kind of a suboptimal plan, because almost always, if it's at all possible, we would prefer to deliver all of the products from the same warehouse, and thus save on shipping and transit time and things like that for everybody. All right, so that should be a pretty good overview of existing functionality. We've talked about it before, and now we're going to be moving on to the second part. So what could be better about shipping out of Odoo? Well, primarily, you want to deliver goods as efficiently to the customer, and that means 2 things. Number 1, the cheapest shipping that's possible, generally speaking, that has the options that you're looking for, including things like signature requirements and stuff like that. But you also need to meet the requirement from the original sale order. So really, we want to optimize and save money on a per package or per shipment basis, because just because we originally planned a 2-day FedEx does not necessarily mean that all the items need to ship 2-day FedEx to be able to arrive. So what we really need to do is start rating or shopping, if you will, rates at the time of the delivery. So all that to say, let's go ahead and take a look at that. I do want to take one small piece aside and talk about a piece of functionality here that is a system parameter that is essentially just a domain for which carriers provide the basis for the stock delivery planner. This is one of those weird technical things that I should come up with a better way to represent this in the database, but for the time being, it looks like this. So what is this behind the scenes? Well, this is one version, or the most basic version of a FedEx, a USPS, and a GSO rate, which are the 3 carriers that I currently have set up in this database. Those provide the basics for what will be a multi-rated, essentially package or per package kind of a rating. I bring that up because it's different compared to the way that the sale order planning works, primarily because we are using efficient API calls. So in this case, we're going to make a call per package if you have multiple packages to the different carriers to rate that package, but then we'll actually have as many plans as the different carrier methods that you might actually offer. So let's go take a look at that. We will jump into inventory and operations transfers, and we should see all of our transfers essentially down here at the bottom, a bunch that were created today. So let's go ahead and just take a look at some of the ones that I created today here. So in the most basic kind of scenario here, we have an order or a delivery order that was created from a sale order. It was originally planned to go out GSO ground, and not that we need to see that, but let's go ahead and hit the plan shipment button. If you don't use packaging, and generally speaking, all of your orders can be shipped via a direct, via just a box or something like that, then this method will work pretty well at the very least to give you an idea of how you might want to ship it. So in this case, we have a sale order delivery date right here that we're trying to meet, and we only have one method that will meet it, which is our FedEx priority. Everything else is going to be too slow. And so for this particular one, we pretty much just have to continue to use this plan. We would select that, and the GSO will go away, and we will essentially have that priority overnight, and we'll be ready to ship this order. So let's go ahead and do that. We have a problem with the way that our carrier is set up. Let's go and take a look. I think I know what this is. Delivery methods, and our FedEx is going to need to be pounds in the US market. What other FedEx did I have since we're rating them all? Priority overnight, for example, is what we were trying to rate. Let's go ahead and say that's a label. And we have an unused ground here. Don't know why it's unused, but that's already in the package weight. All right, so back over to those planned transfers. Sorry about that, a little brief aside there. All right, so I believe this is the one that we planned. It is FedEx, so let's just go ahead and validate it. Okay, perfect. Something to point out, I suppose, is that I do have my Shipbox, which is another Hibou technology. Learn more at hibou.io. We have Shipbox installed, and I have a shipping profile set up, which means that I have technically a scale back here that I'm not using, but I'll turn it on, and we'll go ahead and throw some weight on there, and we'll see the weight. And additionally, we have a label that printed out from our particular priority overnight in this particular case. All right. So let's move on to another transfer. We'll just move on to our next transfer. All right, so let's go ahead and hit plan and see what we can tell about the story for this one. So the last one was one that we had to ship something fast to be able to get it. Oh, and here we've got some even better ones. So I don't know exactly how this was originally sold. It doesn't really much matter for us, but in this case, it's going to be significantly cheaper if we choose, or rather, it should be cheapest to meet our deadlines by choosing this 655 GSO ground. So let's go ahead and select that one and validate or send to shipper. And we have a GSO label come out. For what it's worth, I can hold this up. Bam, GSO label. All right, so let's see if we can't find some items that have more than one. All right, so we could have packed the last one to use a specific packing, but let's go ahead and do a multi-shipment in this case. So let's go ahead and edit. We're going to choose one of these items, put it in a pack. Something to keep in mind is that we support generic packaging. This is really important, actually. If you've used Odoo shipping in the past and stuff, we have patches on all the carriers that we're interacting with right now. Otherwise, how could we do these behaviors, right? And some of those patches involve the idea of adding using the original packaging or the default packaging's code and stuff. That is to say that I can choose a default box like this 10 by 10 by 10 here and accept that from scale and hit save. And in the general case, the packaging code from the original will apply to this because the fact that we're just using generic packaging. So let me go ahead and pack this one too. We'll go ahead and pack this one in the 10 by 5 by something or 5 by 5 by 10. And we'll say save. Let's go ahead and say that this one's a lot lighter, like, well, actually, yeah, a lot lighter, 0.2 or something like that. All right, we'll hit save. All right, so now when we hit plan shipment, something else is going to happen. All right, so what we have is per package, the rates, and that's the rate for the specific packaging that was used, plus the packaging code of the delivery method in the case where the delivery method may not support the package. In this case, it was completely generic, which means we're allowed to use any of our existing ones. We're still allowed to choose. GSO fell off, probably because of a rating issue, not entirely sure, and it's not going to really matter. So in this case, we can pick any of these gray ones, and when we choose the first one, so for example, this first class, which can still work, we'll go ahead and select it. We'll note that by selecting one for this package, we have essentially deselected all the rest of them, so we've eliminated from the plan, which makes this very fast because we can ship both of them first class, and we would get a combined. Let's go ahead and ship one priority and one first class though. So this button was not available until I have planned all of my packs. And now that I have planned my packs, when I hit planned here, nothing super visible is going to change. And I can use the same usual mechanisms, validate or send to shipper. In this case, I should get two labels out though. Not in this case. No label printing for me on this particular one, but we can see that we did in fact get both labels. So we have a ZPL for one of these as priority and a ZPL for one of these as our original shipping. So let's go ahead and go over to our additional information here. And now we're going to see some very different things. Number one, we have a computed field for package tracking numbers. We do our best to try to emulate that and copy it on down into here as well. We also change the carrier as we ship so that we can make sure that we at least get one of the carriers that was selected. So even if this was originally FedEx One Day or something like that, we're going to represent at least one of the carriers. Additionally, every package now has its own tracking number and its own carrier. And that means that we can actually individually ship or individually pack these as well. So for example, we can come into our first class and hit cancel. And theoretically, if we wanted to, we could go to that package, it's pack 03. Edit this, change this back around to say a FedEx 2 Day or something like that, and go ahead and hit the ship button. Okay, so now we have a FedEx tracking number, and once again, over here we'll see FedEx and we'll have this FedEx tracking number. We'll also have the FedEx label over here ready to print and stuff as well. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some more scenarios, this is obviously already pretty good. It's pretty. Oh, let me actually cancel this one because we don't want to leave. FedEx doesn't charge for things they don't pick up, but USPS, in this case stamps.com, does. So we do want to make sure we cancel anything that we actually ship via those methods. All right, so let's go ahead and back down here. Let's try to pick out one with more items as well. All right, sounds good. So let's go ahead and pack this one a slightly different way. So we'll go ahead and put, edit, and we'll say 1 here. All right, we'll put that apple in a package. In this case, let's go ahead and choose a priority mailer. Now, this particular one does in fact have a very specific packaging code on it. So this one's packaging code and packaging is USPS specific. So we cannot ship that apple in this case any other way other than USPS, which means we expect our packaging or our planning to do the same thing. We'll go ahead and choose our generic 10 by 10 box in this case and save. All right, when we plan shipment this time, we are going to get something a little different because in this case, we only get USPS rates for the package. And in fact, I didn't really use a priority packaging code. That was a very tiny lie there. In reality, I just used a generic or the USPS as the carrier, which means I technically could still ship this first class. But you'll note that I do not have any GSO or other FedEx or something rates for Pack 5, and that is because the packaging that I chose. So in this case, despite the fact that my plan's all over the place, and by using this packaging code, I'm going to be I have to select something like this. Let's go ahead and get GSO ground plan, and we'll send to shipper just so that we can avoid the validate. And here goes some labels. So we got our stamps and our GSO label out. So our first label in this case is a GLS label, or actually prints upside down. Hard to say exactly which one it was, but we have 2 different styles of label, one at a time for the 2 packages. All right, so that does it for this particular conversation or talk. If you'd like to learn more, come on over to hibou.io. We have loads of documentation and videos and a bunch of other modules and functionality to assist you in delivering those great experiences for your customer. Thank you again.